So hi, welcome into my channel. In this video I want to prove that the Big Bang is false. So I'll prove it. I'm going to give you some proofs. But I use some guy from the internet, a physics guy. It is not that I'm taking on him, is that he is presenting the official theory, but even better that he uses some formulas. So I will insert in my video pieces from his channel, so I don't have anything against him. But in this process, I will prove wrong even all the formulas in physics. I will tell you that they are wrong. But you must understand why this requires a big video. For the first mistake that they do, not understanding that Leibniz and Isaac Newton calculated the mechanical movement independent. Leibniz is the second equation, kinetic equation, and Newton force. And they discovered the same mathematical apparatus. They're integrated functions. You integrate something from some part to some part. And this is this is the first mistake. And the force for Newton in a system of planets is G, and instead of acceleration small a is small g, and the first mistake that he makes is that he equates with G force. Leibniz, like with Newton, and maybe somebody did this in the physics, but it's wrong because they calculated the same mechanical movement, but you do not are allowed to put kinetic energy force or mathematical mass time acceleration is 1.5 mass time velocity squared. So watch what he does.
If you're trying to leave the Earth or another object and you want to calculate the escape velocity, remember that we looked at the total energy, which was 1/2 mv squared minus gmm over r, and we said that if that is greater than or equal to 0, then you'll escape. If the positive piece, due to the energy of motion, was bigger than the negative potential energy, you'd escape. So all you have to do is keep pumping up the velocity until this term is bigger than that term. And when it's exactly equal to 0, that gives you the escape velocity. Any velocity bigger than that will escape. So equating this term to this term, I just get that the escape velocity from any object is 2gm over r. That you already know, I hope, from past 5-minute physics.
So now if you watch that, what he's saying through the escape velocity, okay, I must explain to you the second mistake that they are making. They are making this mistake by identifying Benjamin Franklin electricity with energy. And they do not understand, but the guys were dying, the Benjamin Franklin was burned. And so after 1700s, what Newton made discover electricity. So the first energy is not electricity energy. But they are making, if you watch some pieces from the internet that I read from the Wikipedia, you see that even they make these mistakes on internet. I will put for you maybe some later, okay? So now this is the second mistake that they are believing that this kinetic energy of Leibniz energy, or Einstein even, kinetic energy is electricity energy. And so I want to tell you that it is not the case. This will infer the Big Bang. You will see why.
I talked about the fact that we had sort of an expanding universe, and I'll just draw a bunch of galaxies around here. And these are my little galaxies. Okay, I don't know if you can see them. I'll get a little closer. And any region of the universe is expanding, as the universe is expanding in general, if the region is big enough. Okay. Now, the question is, what's the history of the universe look like, and we can say, let's talk about the energy of the universe, and particularly the energy density of matter in the universe. Each of these galaxies weighs a certain amount, say a mass m. And the total energy in any given region is mc squared, the mass energy of each galaxy, times the number of galaxies in the region.
So, and the third mistake that they are making, it seems trivial or not, but this is the mistake. You see, if you have an equation with two parts, A times B equals C, so I invent the Big Bang, you see, and black holes even, and all the physics in the process. So if you do not have patience, maybe this is not easy, easy video to watch or something. When I was younger, I will skip out the school to watch Home Alone. Maybe it's more attractive movie, but because at the school they did not knew this, and they were tricking, and I could not understand their crazy stuff. Exactly like Lawrence Krauss presents. Okay, do you see that he's saying that there is an energy per volume in space? So watch when he talks about the galaxies that have a mass and have an energy. So I started to tell you the third mistake that they are making. Okay, this I times B equals C. You can maintain this a constant, let's say 3, and you increase this A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, how do you want? So you multiply 7 with B, 8 with B, 9 with B, the C will increase. But now in this equation, force equal mass times acceleration in kinetic energy, you have some multiplying factors like this. But now you are tricking yourself treating some systems. You are believing that you can multiply the mass. But you are not allowed to multiply the mass in some cases, because you in math you can do this. In mathematics you have a variable, you multiply the mass, but in physics you are not allowed to make this. And I explained to you this, how they are making this wrong with this. The same mass produces many speeds and many acceleration. Okay, so but the mass, it is a reality of acceleration. If you put this in the scale, it is a reality of acceleration, the mass. If you understand this, if you scale this like this rock, you scale it, and you put it in a centrifuge, but you put it in a scale, and the scale you put it in a centrifuge, like this centrifuge I got from training of aircraft training.
This is the Royal Air Force Training Centrifuge at Farnborough, and the team here are going to push me as far as they are allowed to push a civilian.
The centrifuge has been here since 1955. The device was originally installed for research purposes, although these days it's used for training as much as it is for research. And what it does is recreate the forces that you feel in an aircraft. For our routine pilot training, the first time pilots go on the centrifuge, we expect them to get up to 5G without a G suit, and then up to 7G with an anti-G suit.
So if you watch that, imagine there's the scale on this wall, a scale, and this chamber will rotate, and the scale will register the mass of this, or the kilogram scale, bigger if you accelerate fast, that you spin fast that. So now they are saying G's, 1G, 2G's, 3G's. 1G is the G of the Earth, the force that attracts all the bodies. So I must explain to you this, okay? But I inferred the Big Bang. So now I must explain to you history, okay? And I explain to you all the physics in the process, but because you to understand that the Big Bang is false, it is shocking for the entire humanity, and you understand that I cannot make this in 10 minutes. It is shocking for the entire humanity to find out that the Big Bang is false physics, okay? So now I have to tell you what gravity. I'm saying I'm not filming myself like in the stream manner. I'm not looking like this. This is like, I don't know, maybe some like Van Gogh, I don't know, like in an angle like this, I don't know, and it seems strange to me to stay straight like this, okay? I have 42 years old, maybe someday I will feel myself straight, and I'm saying like a tea science, coffee science, I always have coffee. So I'll prove to you the Big Bang false. So be a little bit patient, a bit very pay attention, okay? So I've cut from the YouTube channel from Lawrence Krauss from 2 videos, but one of them I will put it like in the entire length video that he made.
I talked about the fact that we had sort of an expanding universe, and I'll just draw a bunch of galaxies around here. And these are my little galaxies. Okay, I don't know if you can see them. I'll get a little closer. And any region of the universe is expanding, as the universe is expanding in general, if the region is big enough. Okay, now the question is, what's the history of the universe look like, and we can say, let's talk about the energy of the universe, and particularly the energy density of matter in the universe. Each of these galaxies weighs a certain amount, say a mass m, and the total energy in any given region is mc squared, the mass energy of each galaxy, times the number of galaxies in the region.
So about expansion and energy per volume, you see that if you are smart already know that the kinetic energy it is not electric energy, and you cannot have per volume only for relation with mass. So you cannot have per volume a kinetic energy if you do not have mass. But it is already proves the Big Bang false, because if it exploded, already exploded mass. So what this means is that they exploded from the Big Bang, the mass, how we know it, like this. So you cannot pretend then that you may from some electrical energy that they are pretending some particles with no mass, they say was created the normal mass. So somehow this will tell you that all the matter in the universe were in one place with mass, and it exploded. because the explosion will have a kinetic energy per volume, not electric kinetic energy. And this kinetic energy, so this is on the short proof. But I am not happy with this. You will tell that it is not true what I'm telling you. So for this I have to explain to you what Galileo discovered. You see, he discovered that this object, small object, will fall on the earth exactly like this. This is a rock, and this is like a match. But it seems strange to you or not, there is 10 meters per second. So do you throw this from 10 meters, this match will fall 10 meters in a second. So you time the 1 second, 10 meters. And this another one. In 1 second, 10 meters. This big body. And the bigger body, you have the same range, 10 meters per second. And you say that it is somehow crazy already. Why so on the earth having an air, oxygen, nitrogen, air, this will not fall with the same rate like a rock, because the air attenuates the fall speed. But this experiment was made on the moon, and the Scott Smith, I don't know, like an astronaut that goes in the moon, throw the feather and a hammer, and they fall in the same time, like with acceleration of the system, of the planet, of the body. And now, so this was made by Galileo. It is not a relation of mass, it's a relation of space-time, 10 meters per second, no matter the mass. This is this experiment. Now I will tell you how the orbits are. I will explain to you all the physics to see that I'm not crazy and the Big Bang is false. So now these falling bodies were made by Leibniz with kinetic energy movement, defining with kinetic energy, throwing rocks from a building, okay, like Leibniz. But before him, this is the first guy, Galileo, that was arrested by the Catholic Inquisition, okay, at his home. He made this experiment, not in like this. like not in a perpendicular falling like this. A rock falls perpendicular to the earth with 10 meters, no matter the mass. He made with round bodies, the experiment, and you see, you let them on an angle, on the surface. And this, if you understood, has the same rate. So even though it's bigger, has the same rate of falling, 10 meters per second. This is the acceleration of the Earth. But so it is not due to mass, it is an acceleration, a space over time. Why is square now? You must understand why the equation is square. Even in a Leibniz equation is velocity square. I forget to put it square. But the square means a times a. So if you have a square like this, if it's very easy, you see, you have a square. This is why it is square in English, but in Romanian, but we say like in two ways. And at the this is the form, a square. We say a pătrat, because this is pătrat or a square. So what is this? An area, a multiplied by a. You see, you have a length of the square. So why this is why it is a square, and you see that appears of everybody. The Newton is acceleration is space over time square. That is so is also square. In Leibniz kinetic is square, and in C square it is a square. This square. So I explained to you all the science of physics, okay? Because it is an area. It is not only a line. It is an area. You will see why. Like this. You have the Cartesian trajectories like this. You can pause this, you watch this more carefully, but I explain this to you. So this is a factor, you see like this, here written 9.8 meters per second square, or 10 meters per second, when the vector is perpendicular downwards. You put it, in this case you have an alpha angle, because it is like a hill, it puts in an angle. And you discard you put the angle in equation. You must put the angle because it is a small difference in a perpendicular falling like this. Is a perpendicular falling, and this has another angle. In a perpendicular is 90 degrees falling, and this is another case, but it's the same equation. So now let me explain to you this vector 10 meters per second. It was observed, it was not calculated. They were throwing rocks, this is observed, all the rocks fall with 10 meters per second, okay? So that's why I neglected to put the velocity square, but it appears. But it's not much of a deal, it is representing an area. So now let me show to you how they are wrong, how they are making this wrong. You see, you can represent a vector like this. You see, like this rock having a downward vector 10 meters per second like this, with this length and this. This is a vector. You must understand this, okay? So let me say that I make this easy for everybody, because in schools, I've told you the history, I stay home to watch Home Alone, because the professor is imbecile, like everybody, do not know how to explain this. Maybe it's a little bit hard, and I don't know how to explain it, but everybody will benefit. So there is a 9.8 meter vector like this, but you must understand why it is a vector. You see, it is like a line with a arrow, and it points always downwards. That's why it's pointing always downwards. You see, because and this vector is like your beautiful friend that's all over where you go, where I go is after me. This vector 9 meters per second. What it is doing, it is adds to all the movements. You see, it is a downward vector 10 meters per second, and when you move, you have a trajectory movement, and everywhere you go, you see, this vector will follow you. It is charging and discharging movement. The same vector, this is how they are tricked with black matter, dark energies, and anti-gravity. because in this way the vector charges the movement, in this way this charges, and when it go back again charges, because this is the addition of the vector. So it is normal why that if you fold like this, it will is like you have another like this, another mass attached to you, but it is not a mass. I explain to you immediately. So when this rock will fall, it is not the falling only of the rock, it is added with this force, 9 meters per second. So if you now want to escape, you go upwards, you have a speed, all the rock is this mass is always attached to you, so it does two things. That's why they are tricked with black matter and dark energy. It's a long video, but I contradict the Big Bang. That's why they are, because in one direction if you go with him, it will accelerate you and multiply your trajectory, and if you go against him, it will discharge your movement. You see that it is discharging movement. What is this mean? Is that when you have a car and you, it is discharging your movement. Even though if you do not have an engine, you have some speed with your car, you let it for free running, this vector will discharge the movement from your car, even though it is, you understand? But you see, your trajectory will compound the vectors and discharge the movement like this. It will stop. That's why bodies stop on the earth. The rate of discharging of the movement is 9.8 per meter square, because of this vector always acts downwards. So I explained to you that you understand that I'm not crazy, and I use the opportunity for everybody to know physics, okay? So now, what is this force of kinetic energy? We do not know. We do not know. It is not a mass. So it is not due to mass. It is a constant like this. You see, but it is wrong. This representation is somehow wrong, because it is not this. It is the wire. So the force is in the wire, and a non-C wire that always pushes you down. So now you do not know who will produce it. In mathematics, you put it in an object like this. You have an object, a mass object like this, and the vector G, the equivalent F, is downward always, 10 meters per second. And if you saw that aircraft when you are making the pilots training, okay? So what does that centripetal motion? I've told you, if you put a scale like that and you rotate that, the mass will increase. Because your speed will push harder on a scale. Because you have a trajectory vector like this that wants to escape and will push harder. So the mass is not defined as statical defining of a mass, because on Earth you have the same acceleration or the G force. If you put this on the scale, you show to you always the same mass. So it is the difference between kilogram mass and mass. Because now if you put this rock, let's say they have a half a kilogram, it is maybe 300 grams, I don't know. But let's say 1 kilogram, okay? I have this one. Let's say this has 1 kilogram, and you put it in a scale like this. This is a scale, a spring scale. It will push, and you make a meter like this. It will push on it. But now what it acts on this, like I've showed to you, acts like some unseen wire at this, 9.8 meters per second. And if you put it in this, like this on the table, it will show to you 1 kilogram. But if you take this scale and put it on that rotating wheel, the scale will indicate much more than this. Because the kilogram is a compound, so the mass, it is not a kilogram mass, it's the mass of an object related with the force. So now if you put it in a scale at that rotating wheel, the scale will show to you 2 kilograms, 3 kilograms, 4 kilograms, because you multiply in this equation the force So having a force that want to escape like this, being more than 9 meters per second, that's why the guy says, I put for you a second time that guy. That's why I inserted in my video. He says 1G, 2 Gs, 4 Gs, 4. It will be useful for you, even if you are pilot or something. You understand? So now the scale. So watch it.
This is the Royal Air Force Training Centrifuge at Farnborough, and the team here are going to push me as far as they are allowed to push a civilian.
The centrifuge has been here since 1955. The device was originally installed for research purposes, although these days it's used for training as much as it is for research. And what it does is recreate the forces that you feel in an aircraft. For our routine pilot training, the first time pilots go on the centrifuge, we expect them to get up to 5G without a G suit and then up to 7G with an anti-G suit.
So he says 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram, I said, okay, but he says G force, because you have a force that goes in that direction when you spin that object. And if you have a scale like this, or another way, this spring, if you in normal condition, we show you 1 kilogram. If you put it like this and you put the rock in the scale, it will show to you the kilogram depending on the speed of your trajectory. So now they are interpreting that the force increases the mass therein, but the mass does not, because the rock does not increase the mass. It is not increases the mass. It is increasing a reality between the rock and the scale. So the scale is made like this when to push it with the force. And in the case of a static system, you put it like this and you have a constant mass due to the same acceleration of the Earth. So now, can they elucidate what is this force through this? So it is not a relation of mass, it is a relation of forces. So now can they understand what is this? And now more details. So let me put for you another part from the video of to take some pause, okay? This from Lawrence Krauss, when it is explaining like the kinetic energy, electricity per volume, okay? He is saying that the speed of light, and I will tell you all of this. That's why you must follow me, okay? You must. So he says that how it is a kinetic energy per volume, that it is, I told you, that it is a movement kinetic energy, then says that is electricity kinetic energy per volume, okay?
Okay? So that's the total mass energy in any given region. Okay? Now, because the universe, we don't know the size of the universe, it's reasonable to talk about only local quantities. So instead of talking about the total energy in any region, say of volume V, let's talk about the energy density. So we're always talking about local quantities. I'll call that rho. And the energy density is simply that total energy divided by the volume. Okay, so let's draw a curve, which is the energy density of matter as a function of the size of the universe, as the size of the universe has gotten bigger. And there's some number now. The energy density of matter today, we'll call that some number. And this is today. What did it do over time? Well, if you look at this, the volume of any region, any spherical region of radius r, is proportional to the cube of the radius. For those of you who remember from high school mathematics, the volume of a sphere of radius r is 4/3 pi r cubed, but forget the 4/3 and the pi. It's just proportional to the cube of the radius. So the density goes like the number of galaxies in the region times the mass, c squared, over r cubed. So the density goes like r to the minus 3. That means r 1 over r cubed. So if I draw this, that means if I draw it out, and particularly using what's called a logarithmic scale, the density falls like r to the minus 3. So the matter density of the universe was bigger at earlier times, it'll get smaller later on. Okay, what about the other density in the universe? Well, the universe is full of radiation. All throughout space, lots of radiation. And that radiation is made of particles called photons. And so we could calculate the energy density of radiation the same way. The energy density of radiation is the number of photons times the energy per photon. Now, the neat thing is, we know from Einstein and Planck in quantum mechanics that for every given photon of light, particle of light, if you wish, the energy of that particle is some constant, Planck's constant, times the frequency of the light. That's the fundamental concept of quantum mechanics. And therefore, the energy density in radiation is the number of photons in any region times h times their frequency over the volume of the region. Okay?
For this section, I'm filming the kinetic energy from Wikipedia to show to you again that he is wrong. Okay, you are not allowed to intersect the kinetic energy with Newton. This was kinetic, meaning motion. Okay, made by Leibniz. You see, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and John Bernoulli, and the equation is this. Equation: kinetic energy is 1.5 mass time velocity squared. Squared means the area. You can put only velocity. Okay, and you see that they intersect with the force. This is the wrongdoings. So you have momentum or the inertia, and this is the Newton. This is work, mechanical work per space, and this is the Newton equation. And you are not allowed to intersect the force equal mass times acceleration with 1.5 mass time velocity square, because this is the kinetic energy made by Leibniz for the movement, and the same was calculated in the same period they were fighting. Newton calculated in another way. You see that acceleration, it is a square even, but this one says that is a half, and this has put acceleration, and you cannot equate it. And they were arguing in an epoch because they even made the same mathematical apparatus, but they see that they name it different. So a mechanical work done by a force per space, a delta space, considering the time, and having an impulse. So I showed to you that even these guys many people work with these equations. You see what this means, that an object with twice the speed hits 4 times harder. You see, so many people work with this. So this is the first mistake that he is making, and maybe another guys, because he says that he learned this from an astrophysics guy when he was in high school. So you're not allowed to put G force is F force with acceleration of specific planet acceleration. So you do not allow to equate 1.5 times mass. This is kinetic energy, and the potential it is at a kinetic energy, and you are not allowed to superimpose it. Only if they did this after Leibniz and Newton. So this is the first mistake that they do. So another thing, you see that this lady, it says is very easy to understand. It hits with twice harder. So it is a impact, a motion. You see, like a nurture, like So this is potential energy. In physics, potential energy is the energy held by an object. because of his position relative to other objects. You see, and they superimpose it now with electricity. This is their mistake. The archer does not have an electricity, a kinetic potential in energy, but he might not release it. This means that it has the potential, but he will not shoot with the bone. Okay, so the archer should not. This is potential energy. It is charged, but it is not released. And understand, and has something to deal with mass. So this is the second mistake that they do. Kinetic energy is a mechanical energy, not electricity energy. So this is the second mistake that they do. So he says the electricity, radiation, kinetic energy, but you do not superimpose them because the electricity does not have kinetic energy, like heat with force. So that's why I must explain to you to understand. So now what is this force? This force is a vector like this, but it is not in the rock. You see, I put for you only to visualize like this. You do not see it, and it manifests like in the middle. So the distance that where is manifesting the gravity center is between this rock and the earth, or the body that you are considering. So in this case, it's between these rocks. In the middle, there's a force equal and opposite direction, like the Newton says, like this. Any force has an equal and opposite direction force. So now you understand that this force, it gives downwards, and it is another trick that it can trick you, but it has one opposite direction, because this is what Newton says. So it is not only a perpendicular vector downwards, force equal mass acceleration, it is an equal one in the opposite direction. So this is composed like a tension in this wire. So you can treat it that it is here in the middle, acts, and it is a tension in this wire. So in this way, this force mass time acceleration, I will explain to you orbits now. I'll explain to you how you make orbits. You have this, okay? Like I make for you many cases of how a body can move in the coordinate systems, and this is maybe a little bit harder, but from many trajectories that you can have, a chord trajectory, a rectilinear one, okay? So now they do not believe that in the gravitational movements around the sun, you can treat all three these equations. So this is another source of confusion. You put all these three equations and you can treat gravity. Because gravity, you must understand this. You must understand this geometry. It explains to you gravity. So now you put what I've told you, and you understand that you have this rotation. The gravity is not different from everything that I've told you. It is this, okay? This body rotating around another body. But now the trick: who produces the force? Who produces the force? I am producing the force. And now, because in the equation, if you understood, it is this possibility. So now because in the equation, this possibility to multiply or increase A, or to keep B constant, or increase B could increase C, they are tricking themselves. Because they are believing that you increase mass to have force. But now if you see so that centrifuge of the training of the aeroplane pilots, okay, you do not increase the mass of this object that is spinning, you increase the velocity. So now they are believing the big mass produces a static mass produces a force. So now they are believing that somehow the force is emanated or radiated from the rock. Radiation means to be exposed or produced by the mass. But no mechanical movement is produced by mass. It is a relation between mass. And that's why I put for you these explosions to understand. So these explosions are kinetic examples of kinetic energies per volume, like this. So the kinetic energy has multiple forces operation. So that's why I put for you, I insert it in a video to understand that this is the tension. It's a kinetic energy in this wire, unseen wire is a kinetic energy. And it is a relation between mass and this force or kinetic energy or Einstein kinetic energy. So it's that are the same thing. So 9.8 meters per second in the case of our Earth, 3 meters per second in the case of the Moon. So I explain to you the entire universe. That's why the video is big, okay? The entire physics. That's why. So the Mars has half Earth space over time. So on this, you understand now that on Mars, if you put this rock on Mars with weight lesser, it has this space over time, or on the Moon. So if you put yourself on the scale on the Moon, your friend, beautiful friend that it is always with you, is 3 meters per second. So your beautiful friend, everything that you are making mechanical movements. So this unseen beautiful friend that is always with you everywhere you go, okay? And compound your trajectory of the vector is 3 meters per second on the Moon. But again, you do not know how it is made. How the Moon does this to you. You do not know. You do not know still even through this I explained to you. You do not know. It could be a centripede and centrifuge motion due to the rotation of the Earth around the Sun and the Moon around so because you saw that spinning wheel, that spinning stuff, it is imprimes kinetic energy or a force on a trajectory, so the scale will indicate another kilogram mass due to speed. So if you rotate this like it is in this manner, it is a centripede and centrifuge force, and when you spin it, that will push you like this downwards. So if you spin it, so now they are tricking themselves that this force is produced by mass. Why they did this? Not from the Earth. From the Earth you cannot suppose this. You see kinetic energies in action like that explosion. Or I put for you, so the mass does not produce any gravity waves. This is where they are tricking themselves with that E equal or B equals C. By presupposing that's the relation between forces and masses, they are tricking themselves that the mass itself produces a movement. But the movement, it is space over time, and you do not. So what the equation said, if you want to explain, if you produce a movement in the mass, so there will act some tension, and this tension is a force. And the reality of the force being more complex, like you see, this is a force also, like this. You see, like that, or this whip. So this whip, if you understand now on short, they are believing that a mass like a moon mass, if you hold it still, has a force per volume, per density, per quantity. So, but if you put in the scale that whip, so if you scale it, let's say it has 1 kilogram, the whip has 1 kilogram, you do not know how many forces you can produce this. If you hit hard with it, you produce another force. If you rotate it, the whip like this, you can make like this. With you produce ondulation. So the mass kilogram is the same mass kilogram of the whip, but this guy produces many forces, and you can treat the forces per volume. I mean the quantity of heatings per volume or attention in volume. This is a kinetic energy per volume, or an Einstein energy or a force per volume, like this, per volume. But what it is it's connected with mass, so this will contradict the Big Bang, because you have to have mass. So it have to explode in a mass, exactly like in explosion. You saw that the explosion pushes the rock, exploding. But the rock itself, they're not producing the force of the explosion. You understand? So now they are believing that the mass of the moon produces the gravity. And you see that this guy says, this Lawrence Krauss says somehow that is a quantity density per volume. But why they did this? If you follow me, if you follow what and you remember, it is somehow difficult. That's why, okay?
Now, what happens as the universe expands? Well, if an electromagnetic wave that has a wavelength like this, as the universe expands, the wavelength stretches out. The wavelength is proportional to the size of the universe. As the universe gets bigger, the wavelength gets bigger. The frequency, which is 1 over the wavelength, therefore goes down as 1 over the size of the universe. Therefore, if you look at this, I'll write it here, the energy density in photons is the number of photons times h, and then the frequency is some number, call it k, over r, and then over the volume, which is r cubed. So the energy density of radiation goes down as r to the minus 4 power.
So why they did this now? You have these equations, and you have a circle, like this circle. Like this, it is all the geometry that you need. You see some arrows, they give in center, like this. And now what they did wrong? Some other followers after Newton says like this. So all of this presupposes the sun is in the middle. So because there were ideas that even that the sun is not, but after Copernicus says that the sun is in the middle, they are presupposing, all of this presuppose that the sun is in the middle, okay, and the earth rotates like this. So now what Newton and Leibniz says, and even Einstein, you see there is a force per volume, and there are two masses, 1 and 2. And now you are believing that the masses produces the movement, but if you let the masses do not move anywhere. So, but if you do not have a movement, you do not have a kinetic energy. The kinetic energy will be 0. You can put this, and you put it in the equations. You do not have any acceleration, no c squared, nothing. So what it is the potential? What it is the gravity? You do not have any movement. So you put it in an equation. But how they trick themselves? Now they knew they knew this, that the earth revolves around the sun indirectly through other principles, not through Newton or this. So now they explained, so I explained to you entire physics, okay? It seems strange to you, but this is where the causes of the mistakes, okay? So now they made from the earth 9.8 meseconds squared, the acceleration of the earth. And they made the mass of the earth indirectly. How? They suppose that the entire earth is like this rock. This is the first wrongdoing that they do. So now you understand they do not have an equation even to calculate the mass of the earth. How did you know that the earth is moving in circle? Indirectly. You see that it is 365 days, a full rotation. That's why the circle has 360 degrees. So from here back here it is 360 degrees, approximating the circle degrees, approximating the day in a year, 365 days. So each day is it is a degree in a circle. So but this didn't know this indirectly, that the earth moves 360 days like this in orbit around the sun, by observing the motion of and even believing Copernicus, that he said the sun stays in the middle and the earth rotates around the sun like this. So now you take a rock from earth like this, a rock from earth like this, and you suppose that all the earth has the same density mass. What this means is that if you make the first mistake. So you presuppose that everything, this is coffee that I'm drinking, okay? Water, gases, everything somehow has the same density, like this. So now they inferred somehow, they were measuring the earth indirectly. They were going with boats and measuring the diameter of the earth indirectly. From indirect processes, they were measuring, so to know how big is the volume of the earth. Let's say you make with a boat from here back here, that the earth was round was proved already. So now you have a sphere, you know that the earth is a sphere, you can see it from orbit, you convince yourself that it is the case, it is a sphere. So but they do not go in space. They measure there like this. They go with a boat from here, and you know the volume of mathematical equation for Pierre square, or the volume of any sphere. But you have to have radius. So you go with a boat and measure the radius of Earth, and you deduce the volume of Earth, and then you make this mistake. You take this rock and you put it in a scale, you know the mass, so per volume. But if you put this piece that has only for lead, it is heavier. So if you put this piece on volume, that it is only lead, it is different, okay? So, but now you presuppose that a medium density and a medium material, so what is made there from water, and so the mass is not calculated from this, it is indirectly. You feel you know the sphere that is the earth, and you make a density per volume mass, you put it in a scale, but it is many points that you can go wrong, because you saw that I've told you that if you weight an object, it depends on the force that you have, okay? So the mass relation. But all of this can produce wrong things, okay? So now you take this rock, you put it in a scale, and you suppose that everything has the same density, even if it is iron, lead, so it is a somehow mistake. So there's a medium density, and you know the kilogram scale. So in this way you can weight a mountain. You take this rock, a big mountain, only from looking at it. You take a rock from the mountain, you put it in a scale, you see what is the mass, and you make the volume of the rock. It is easy if it is a spherical object or a cube object. You make the volume faster. So if you cut from the mountain a volume, a cubic volume of a sphere. So now they knew the mass of the earth indirectly, and knowing this equation, and knowing the equation of moving in the circle like this. There were many stupid people did not knew how the earth mass was calculated, how the volume of the earth was calculated, but now you observe some fact. And now they suppose the second way, the second big mistake is to suppose that the both objects, the mass, the sun and the earth, it is the same density, like in the same mass. Because you suppose wrong again, like, because you cannot have a relation then if between masses and forces Only if you consider that the mass is identically, this mass is identical with this mass. So now you suppose again that you know the density is similar, the mass of the sun indirectly. You know the equation from the Earth that it each force and mass and velocity relation, kinetic energy or Newton, and you must treat only one. You cannot put Newton combined mass. You must treat only one. Okay. So now knowing that this spring has a tension quantity given by the Earth mass, this is because you do not know what it produces. Let me tell you like this, it could be an external factor to come a force in the rock, not emitted from the rock. And now they say that the G force is produced by Earth. Indirectly now you know the rotation of the Earth around the sun like this. And you know the distance, you know how many days, 365 days, okay? So now you suppose the radius, you suppose the masses, and you know the velocity. The velocity means how fast will take the Earth to make a full circle, 360. So you know the radius, you know the masses, you know the so this is what implies all these things were implied and were calculated somewhere. And now you can treat yourself because nobody will teach you this. They say the mass of the sun. So now let me tell you again, this mass produces a force? No. So if you rotate this, you have a force. It is fair for you to say that spinning stuff, when you put it on hold, have forces in it? Does not, because the force is defined as time over space. So if you pull the brakes on the Earth and you stop it and you do not go around the sun, you understand that you diminish the forces, the centripetal and centrifugal forces, and these are vectorial forces. So now who produces the forces? Who produces? You understand what they are saying, that the forces are produced by mass, because you know a quantity of force that it will push a mass on Earth. If I hit this mass, I can scale the mass and I hit it and I observe how much will go from the Earth. But now let's say you are on the sun and the sun is identical like our Earth. So how do you calculate when you push a rock on the surface or the sun will move or diminish or on the moon? You see that it is wrong, okay? It is wrong because you understand, because they did this wrong. All the things that they did this are wrong, okay? So big video, but you must understand that this is how they were tricking this all. So now there's a tension in this, but it is produced by the masses. So what throws Earth in orbit of the sun? What throws Earth in orbit of the sun? You see, because the mass that produce not a movement, no circular, no rectilinear movement, if you let it like this. You understand? So now they are supposing that the mass itself, but it's a presupposition. The mass itself produces this G force, and now they identify this force like per mass equating, like you show, like they so mass has so force or a kinetic energy. But you understand that it is not the case, okay? This is not the case.
R to the minus 4 power, 1 extra power of R. It turns out if we measure the energy density in radiation today, it's way down here. It's about 1 part in 100,000 of the energy density in matter today. So if this is 1, this is 10 to the minus 5 in that units. But because it goes down as 1 over R, if we follow it back, at earlier and earlier times, it was falling off faster today. At early times, at some early time, and for all earlier times before that, it was larger than the energy density of matter. We can calculate that time, given that this ratio is 1 part in 100,000, and we find it was when the universe was roughly between 100 and maybe 1,000 years old. For all earlier times, there was more energy in radiation than there was in matter. That's what we mean when we say we had a hot Big Bang. The early universe was always dominated by radiation. The late universe, up to today, at a certain point, was dominated by matter. As long as there was one photon in the universe today, at some early enough time, it was dominated by the energy of radiation. In fact, there are about 1 billion or 10 billion photons in the universe today for every particle of matter. And it turns out the early universe, below a time of about 100 to 1,000 years, was dominated by radiation. So just from that simple argument, we know that the early universe was hot and dense.
So now if you understood all of this, history of all the science I've told you, okay, you understand that they are wrong understanding these forces, these masses, everything, it is wrongly understood. So now let me continue, okay? You see this small rock has the same vector attached to it, so the same quantity like this, but I've told you that it is not correct. It is not a kilogram mass attached to it. It is this wire that has a force in it, a tension. So let me explain to you like in this way. You see this is a smaller wire, like let's say a quarter of a meter, and this is, let's say that is a half a meter. This is a half a meter. If you put it some the same altitude, the tension will different in this cord. So this means that it varies with the quantity of the vectors or the vector. It is the same like this. This is the same downward vector, but if you attach it to a crane like a bigger spring wire or a smaller spring like this, it is different. The tension in it is different. So if you have a big wire from the mountain, you can break with the same rock. So if in normal condition you can pull this rock, let's say with this wire. If you make a big wire and you try to pull it from a mountain, the wire could break in the middle. So what it means is this force varies in the wire with distance. So somehow it is a different charge in a wire per distance, okay? So you understand this in another way. Like this, I brought here a glass like this, a glass. What I've told you has another thing how you can understand it. If you drop this rock, I'm not going to break this. I will make a mess in my house, okay? But the glass, you will understand what I'm telling you, okay? If you take this and you will drop it on this glass, it will not break. It will not break. You see that the mass is the same, but if I throw it from the higher ground, it will break. I'm not going to, because I know that it will break, okay? So now it is a logical mistake to say if you throw a rock in a glass, you will break. So you throw a rock in a glass and then you suppose that it will break. But it depends from how close and how much speed you put in it. You understand? So in this perpendicular falling, if you throw it, you know your force. Let's say you throw it in a with small speed that you not break it. But in this perpendicular case, it's something like this altitude throws the rock through the earth. It froze it. It like you throw it, it'll throw it towards the glass. It's like, and if you throw it from close, you see, it'll not break the glass. But if you throw it from the high altitude, it will break the glass. So something that makes this rock charge with something, with charge with distance. I told you that it charging with distance. So this vector, you understand, like this. The difference is the same. You see the same mass, but the same rotation, like you rotate a wheel, car wheel, and now the same mass, and the same speed, but farther than your hand, farther, the big distance. The same mass, the same speed of rotation, but farther than your hand. It is a different charge in this. So this is another point of mistakes. And you observe that this is true, okay? So what it does happens, the mass varies. You'll charge the mass, or you'll charge something in the mass. So now this is what they are saying, some of them, that you cannot reach the speed of light, somehow interpreting that when you accelerate the body, the mass increase. But it is not the mass that increases, the force increases. So now in 10 meters the force increased, in another 10 meters the force charges this body, not with mass, with force. So there is some field that enters in this rock and charges it. You do not see it, but you do see clearly that exists, because exactly for this cause, experimental cause. You throw this rock, it not break the glass, but if I throw it, maybe another video to see how it will break, okay, this glass with the same stone. But that is a theoretical experiment. You can think some little part theoretically only. No, you do not need experiment. But even though, because the experiments can be falsified. So now it is charged, something it is charging. And you can treat this charge like a vector, and a quantity. The quantity it is, so it goes in the mass, but not increasing the mass, increases the forces in mass. So you have a normal force that charges with a bigger force, and this force plus the mass creates a braking force here, because now the impact is not between masses, between forces. This is the force of atomical connection of the glass as a force, and the force that it tends to break it perpendicular. So it is a relation between forces, atomical connection of the glass, and so now they are believing, if you saw on the internet, then when you accelerate the body at the speed of light, you cannot, because the mass goes infinite, but the energy charge in the object goes to infinity. But now the problem is, can a body of given mass to be charged with the kinetic energy of movement, infinite kinetic energy of movement? If you understand now from the breaking glass, if you charge with kinetic energy of movement, this has an atomical connection like this glass. So if you will charge with energy, kinetic energy of movement will break this, will break it, will explode it. That's why I put for you that explosion. Some force in the rock explodes the mass. So now it is a relation between mass and charge of the object due to acceleration, but an object cannot support a much acceleration than an atomical connection of the charging of the. So now you suppose there is a force field. Now you understand Einstein. Maybe this force field is like like absorbs, like you absorb water but not increasing the mass. The force inside the rock increases. So now you understand Einstein. If you watch my video, now you understand Einstein. This kinetic energy is equated to c squared. This is let's say that it is a force field due to mass, a resting force field due to mass in the empty space, and this force field is light. And now, like you absorb water with that, how do you say? Absorbing water, this absorbs kinetic energy. So now, if you have if you calculate that absorption of it is per density by mass, that's why I've told you how they are making the densities and masses. You cannot absorb much energy light than it is emitted by light. So before the body will break. So this is on short contradicts the black holes. Because you have a density per volume, you cannot increase it, only on paper, theoretically. But if you charge the object with the kinetic energy, you will break. Exactly like this glass. Exactly like this glass. You treat, so you cannot, so now they are mistaken if you understood A times B equals C. They are mistaken that you increase the mass, and you see that this guy says that increases the mass. This English guy did not understood this relation. So you charge not the mass, you charge in mass, so quantity of force.
Now, this fact was used 100 years after Newton by this guy named John Michell, who was a British scientist who actually was a very good scientist, but he could never get a job at Cambridge. He was educated at Cambridge, and so he had to take a consolation position as a clergyman. But nevertheless, he did very good work. And he realized, well, look, if this is the case, and I keep pumping up the mass, eventually the escape velocity will be bigger than light. And he said, maybe there's objects where the escape velocity is bigger than light, and not even light can escape. Early version of a black hole, what we now call a black hole. Now, this is a classical Newtonian calculation, and it has to be modified a little bit in general relativity, but the idea that there could be black holes of approximately this mass went back to him in 1784. In fact, what he showed is if you had an object whose mass was 500 times the mass of the sun, contained in a radius equal to the mass of the sun, the escape velocity would be bigger than light.
So this is why they are supposing that the energy is emitted by a mass, a pure mass, not rotating it, not moving it, not making centrifugal, centripetal motions. The pure mass has a quantity of kinetic energy in it. This is what Einstein maybe said, okay? But even this will not permit you to charge an object after he points of breaking points. And mathematically now you can suppose that you have different densities. You suppose an object equal with this but double the density. You suppose an object equal with this in volume but triple the density. But you do not have it on. You do not have any material to correspond to your equation. So they are tricking themselves. Like this. So a big like an endeavor for me. And you cannot make everything in one video. But if you understood in short. So there is no kinetic energy per volume. There exists not a kinetic energy per volume only if you connect it with the mass somehow. But maybe you can have a pure force without mass. We do not know this because now if this field is energy, like pure energy, like we know sense what you understand, electric kinetic energy, like because he's making the equation you see between light and frequency of light, and so he puts the Planck constant, the frequency of light. So in this way he is saying that per volume in a sphere you have some quantity of kinetic energy, of light energy. And this is why I believe that Einstein is wrong, okay? Because the kinetic energy is another reality or not a reality of electricity movement. So if the Einstein is not wrong, this must be that the velocities that have speed of light, like radio waves, ultraviolet waves, all have the same mechanics. different frequency, different ondulation on space like this, and you suppose that they have a mass and a force per mass, and being the reality basic is that they're equating the kinetic energy with a mass and the speed of light. So basically you cannot, this makes a conditional factor, like if you have this mass now, the kinetic energy in it is equated with the speed of light like this. But it is wrong. So it is wrong. So if you must follow me and my videos, you understand. You will understand many things. So now, if you understand like a recap, if you have to have a kinetic energy, you see that at this explosion, they are not producing by the rocks, by the dynamite. And you put a dynamite. If you understand, if you put a dynamite in a box, and a box with rocks, and you'll understand that it is false, because the reality of depositing of kinetic energy of the box of the dynamite and a mass, you cannot superimpose this. Okay, so if the rock has 1 kilogram, has a kinetic energy in it due to mass, but if a dynamite has 1 kilogram, can break an entire mountain. So the deposit of kinetic energy in mass, it is not due to mass. Okay.
Yo. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire in the hole.
Okay, now I'm telling you, I told you like 3-4 times, a big video, but you must understand that this is how they are tricking themselves. You must have control. This is what Einstein even said. People do not have controls on many variables, A, B, C, D, and you combine it with colors and combining 3-4 sets. This is what Einstein said. So that's why you see that you have to have in mind all of this, to not mistake, because the equation, this is the equations, but this equation have particular cases of geometrical applications. Okay, so now you watch from the earth that nothing moves on the earth if you do not move it. So why do you believe that in space something it moves without movement being produced on a body? But if you produce a movement on the body, what it is the relation in space? You see on the earth you must treat the acceleration of the earth 9.8 meters per second. I've told you, your beautiful friend that always is with you. You see, you push a car, you have this beautiful friend with you, a perpendicular vector that as discharging charges your trajectory. This is why they are making dark energies, not knowing this dark energy and black energy, not understanding this. And on short, let me explain to you. So now there's a perpendicular vector that gives downwards like this, you see, 9.8 per meter second, and if you treat the earth that it is a sphere like this, when you walk on the sphere, on all parts in America and China and in Europe, the vector gives like in interior, in the center of the earth. This is what I represented through this circle, and all this that gives in the center, you see. So now you imagine that you walk on the surface, you will have a perpendicular vector like this. And now what is this square from in the middle? This square. It is this Galileo like this. Like I've showed to you. I showed to you my beginning of the video. Like he made this exactly historically. He made this he put bells, and the body that fall ring the bells in the time that it fall, that to have a temporal clock like. And so you see this, it will fall. Okay, now you imagine that this is the case. You see, I did not have something else to bring to approximate a curvature, the curvature of the Earth. If you put this here and you treat the curvature of the Earth, you have the same falling of this falling. But now you have a difference of geometrical difference between a straight line, this straight line, this. So you fall from here to that point. I have to feel myself. So you fall from here to in the middle here. You fall, or in another part you fall from here to here, like this falls. You do not have any other angles, and in the circle approximation of falling is from here to here by making this curve stuff. Okay, so now you have four quadrants. This one, 4. You can cut this in four squares, okay? Because it's different. Why is different? You must understand, and I asked this already in a video. Is the vector is perpendicular? My lights, something is wrong with my lights. If the vector is perpendicular like this, it rains. It was a lightning. So it is the vector is perpendicular like this when you make an orbit like this with a planet. Let's say with Earth around the sun. You must treat this because it is a difference when it falls. When it falls, the vector accelerates, and when it go upside down, it is decelerates the movement. So there is a difference in four quadrants like this. So now if you imagine that the circle is the orbit of the Earth around the sun, the Earth will fall like this. It will not be attracted. It will fall like this, but then it will fall in. Let me see if you can put this like this. It will fall from here to here. You see, like this, and then you will fall from here to here. But this is why they are confusing with anti-gravity, dark matter, and black energies, because this part is different. This is not a falling, it's acceleration and deceleration because of this cause, okay? If the perpendicular vector is orientated like this downwards, when this body will fall, it is a difference, and when you throw it upwards, it is a difference. So this case is like you make a circle, the orbit of the Earth around the sun, but when it falls, the vector that is perpendicular to the sun accelerates the Earth, and then decelerates, decelerates. You understand? So now you can treat four parts like this: a falling, and then an acceleration, a falling and acceleration, a falling. You understand? Like this way, mathematically. But so because this is a maximum of energy or of force, this is manifesting in a circle. So this is a maximum of energy charge in an object, a discharge through this, then and again a maximum and a charge and a discharge. And you make this in a circle because we know the equations. We know the circle equation. This is not like this. This way is like this. But we have both mathematics. We have them. Okay. So you do not put a straight line, you put a circle. You put a vector, this vector that I've showed to you in the beginning like this. So this long video will prove even to some professor guys that I'm not crazy and I know science, and I bet that the children will go to listen because they do not understand physics. And maybe it's hard when I'm saying, like when I was a child and watch Home Alone instead of go to school, because they are crazy and do not understand this, okay? So this vector 9.8 meters per second now, you put everything that I say. It is a long video, and that's why I've told you, Einstein said, you could not correlate all of this. They cannot correlate all of this, okay? So now you put 9.8 meters per second. You suppose that the Earth is made from the same material density mass. So now you suppose that the force inside the density mass of the Earth is similar with the density mass of the vector that is on Earth. But now you make big mistakes, because the force is not inside the mass density. The force is a reality of movement. So now what they do not understand, the movement is consumed of this vector on Earth, 9.10 meters per second. But the movement is produced by something on the Earth. And the guys, when they were calculating, they were taking a mass and push it like this. And you see that it is stopped, so the moment of the movement is consumed in a period of space. It is consumed and stops, okay? So now they are supposing by the same mass produces the same rate of consumption of the acceleration. So in this way they are tricking themselves that the force is inside the mass, inside the sun, inside the Earth. Because now you understand the video, they know the orbit, but not through the gravity calculation. Indirectly, they know the speed of the rotation of the sun. They suppose is the mass is, how I told you, taking a rock and make the density. And they know now how the force to imprint to a rock until it stops. And you suppose that the sun has the same mass and density. You know the trajectory movement of the Earth around the sun. And now you know the quantity of space, vector space. And now you are believing that the Earth produces of the sun. But this is not what Newton said. He gives you the example of the crane. And that's why it will be enough, maybe in our video, to make a short video from this one. A crane pulls something, and you see that it's not a traction between a crane and a rock, and the rock pulls on the crane, and the force of the crane is not produced by the mass of the crane. You must have some mass to balance that, your crane to be tipped off, to be break off, and you go upside down with your crane. So you have to have a mass only that to balance the mass that you push, but the mass is pulled out with wires, with a mechanical movement produced by the crane. And now you understand that you are doing this wrong, because you can have many forces on space. So now you suppose that the force on space that pushes the Earth, it is a constant, because you know there's 365 days, and you suppose that this force is eliminated from the sun with a constant speed, like you blow something, like you blow this, so the sun blows on Earth like and even this is to demonstrate that this is not it is a heating factor, like I'm telling you in my previous video, a force of impact to move the Earth, to blow it, like constant to move it, okay? With this difference, when you go at equatorial orbit around the sun. So let's say that this is even for the professors, a long video for professor. Even they understand this faster, okay? So now if you understand this dynamite has a force in it, Newtonian force, has a kinetic energy in it, has a kinetic energy, has a kinetic energy, Einsteinian kinetic energy, it has. So, but now you must pick one equation and treat only with through one, or Einstein, or kinetic energy, Leibnizian, or mechanical work, movement, force per space of Newton equation. You cannot combine them because there's a difference. You see, acceleration space over time square velocity is 1.5. This is proof to you that this physics is wrong. And Einstein equation of the 6c squared, one of them is wrong. So you do not believe that they are not going with this equation in space. Von Braun made them the rocket. You do not believe that you can be stupid. So now you understand this vector say suppose that the sun pushes but it does not pushes. Can be an external factor that converges. It is a relation between masses. Let's say that the mass of the moon absorbs this force and emits it. But the force can be produced from outside. That's why I'm telling you that it can be a field, electromagnetic field, emanating from the back ends of the galaxy converging, and the masses of the planets have a capacity to receive this like some antenna, and you add this to the rotation of the planets and the moving around the planets, and now you understand that the trajectory movements of the planets around the sun, it is not produced by mass per se. It is produced by something. So what throws the planet in orbits? A prior movement that must be conserved. But you see that on Earth it is discharged, the movement is discharged. Why the sun does not discharge the movement of the planets? You see that is falsified. You have a constant, perpetual, eternal movement like this, but now you suppose that the mass produces like on Earth. You must presuppose that the discharge of the movement, it is similar with the Earth, and that's why I show to you that quarter of the circle like this. If you understand like mathematics understanding, it will charge it a quarter, discharge a quarter, charge it a quarter, discharge a quarter, the perpendicular vector that goes towards the sun, okay? Charges a quarter, discharges, and this way makes a zero constant, like no consumption. So now the orbit, you can suppose that it is produced like this, okay? But it's if a field emanated, a field. So now everybody were mistaken if you understand that the mass itself produces the field and the mass does not produces the field. And now when they are seeing big massive black holes, they are supposing that the mass itself produces somehow the field. But this dynamite is a simple example that in your box of 1 kilogram of dynamite you can have a colossal force by the ordinary mass and density. So in 1 kilogram of dynamite it is stored million kilograms of kinetic energy of force. So the force is not produced by mass. You know that a force pushes the earth constantly, but you do not know if the sun is produces or the sun receives it from somewhere. It is like an antenna concentrating it and emitting it and makes this field. This field, you do not know the form of the field. It is not by any condition a round field, and this is proving to you a boomerang, because the boomerang makes a circular movement in the straight field. You suppose the oxygen field or nitrogen atmosphere field, and the boomerang has two trajectories, and a spinning one like this and a rectilinear one like this. Both of them are in the object, and there it is consumed, and you imagine that it is charged again and thrown in orbit. This is this circle. When you catch it, you charge it again and throw it in orbit. You catch it and charge it again and throw it in orbit. But who produces the force? The hand produces the force. So the boomerang proves to you that it can make a circle in a straight field, so you do not know how the field looks.
Okay, and here's the flight of the Frisbee boomerang. Beautiful. Beautiful flight. Gotta say, I love it. And then you have it, folks, the boomerang frisbee. And guess what? You can still use the frisbee. If I only had some friends.
You do not know that only that has a quantity per volume. It is a quantity per volume calculated at equatorial movement around the sun, and I'm telling you that the sun does not produce this. In this way, they calculated wrongly the mass of the sun, the diameter of the sun, and all things like this. I do not want to tell you only that the stars are close and the Big Bang is false, and we live in a small galaxy that was one day with the speed of light, and you understand that all that calculation of this guy is wrong, because you cannot have a kinetic energy of movement only if you treat masses. You cannot have an empty space with kinetic energy of movement. So they now are believing that from the Big Bang exploded some energy, electricity, and this electricity is somehow atoms, and the atoms were formed by combining this electricity after the Big Bang when the mass was charged. But you must have an explosion, a kinetic force per mass. To throw some rocks like this kinetic throws rocks from the mountain, okay? So then this throwing of the rocks creates pure space. So then you conglomerate these rocks with what? Because you understand that this wrong understanding of the force are implying all this craziness and actual science. This, even though if you blow the rocks from the mountain with the explosion force, you cannot gather them together. You cannot gather them together through the same force. You must have a congealing factor, and it can be explained through forces, but not through attraction forces. That's why they are saying that the star made through attraction congealing factors, and you understand now that everything that they say is false. So now you understand it is not crazy. Our galaxy is a sphere surrounded by clouds. You cannot see only one day with the speed of light. The light diminishes with distance. I will always show to you, and it is a proof. This object will be small, in small distance. Like you cannot see with your naked eyes your friend from a mountain, only like this small, you cannot see, and if you see the stars with your naked eye, the stars are close. So if I told you like this in a simple manner, you'll believe I'm crazy. But you understand that you must correlate everything that I've told you to understand that I know physics, and they are tricking themselves. There's no energy per volume. The dark energy, black energies are false. So if it is a long video when I contradicted the black holes, the big bangs, it is not a long video.
Now I want to end with a mystery. And that is, this is all we thought was around in the universe until recently. But now we've discovered that there's about 3 times more energy, not in matter, but in empty space. This energy in the universe is called dark energy. It seems to be associated with the energy of empty space, and what's really weird is that energy remains constant over time. And it is the biggest mystery in physics, trying to understand what this dark energy is. But I want to leave you with 2 things, one of which I'll answer in a subsequent physics, 5-minute physics, and one which is a big mystery. The first is, if we look at the fact and say this energy density is constant, what's the total energy contained in empty space in any region? It's the energy density times the volume of that region. But since the volume of the region goes as r cubed, this means the total energy in empty space increases as the cube of the radius of any region. The total energy in empty space in any volume is increasing as that volume increases. That is very strange. And of course, the other thing that's strange about it is that its energy density remains constant. Well, it turns out these 2 big mysteries are remarkable. This one we understand, and I'll talk about in a subsequent 5-minute physics. This one we understand. The wrong one. This one we understand. We understand how it's possible that the energy in any volume of the universe can increase in empty space. But why the universe is full of some energy that remains constant is the biggest mystery in science today.
So even maybe children like I was will prefer to see Home Alone maybe, and this is addressing maybe from some professor that will put together that I'm told you, and you see that I'm not crazy and I've told you science, maybe you do not knew to put it together like this. If you combine the video with my previous video on Lawrence Krauss, like in a water, swirling water, you can have a kinetic energy of movement. If you understand that it is a kinetic energy of movement on the whip that has 1 kilogram, but you hit it in various ways, you can produce a kinetic energy per volume. If you know some engineering science and you knew this Galileo fact, you know now the equation, what they means, you understand and you understood all the science that exists. They are tricking yourself because this what I'm filming with was invention, the light bulb was the invention, the car was the invention, and does not presuppose this science. And they take the inventions and they say that this comes from quantum mechanics, but all they were inventions. These were tricks that they employ to trick you, and I'm telling you, you compound only vectors like this, and they do not know much bigger deal than this. And they confuse the kinetic energy with forces. They put in Einstein back everything that they want because they believe that you do not know. So Einstein made bendy space, curved light, and everything like this. And you see bending of lights. It is proving that Einstein did not bend space, and it is a curvature of light in a surface material. So this is proving what I'm telling you, that there's a surface at the end of our galaxy, and the light is curved by a surface, not by Einstein. Einstein made what Newton made, only let's say correlated the speed of light. So if you put together this everything that I told you, look a short. This is movements. A objects, B object, C object, D object are pawn-like object, moving like in a circular manner, opposing gravity like this in a oblique way, and you see dx, delta x, x1, and z. Z has 3 because the force comports in 3-dimensional space. A body can have many forces, like the boomerang have many forces, a rotating force like this, one like this, on 3 axes. So Newton is made on 3 axes. This what you maybe must understand, and somebody will understand even this. Okay, goodbye. God bless. This is a long video, but you understand there's no energy, kinetic energy per volume. There's no, if you have like these galaxies going away one from another, there must be something similar with that explosion, and that explosion that throws rocks. If you maintain the constant homogeneous density, you must understand that all the galaxies must have the same mass. If the mass of the galaxy is different, the congealing congealing the different bigger densities in masses of the galaxies. That's why he says that's the same density. Let's suppose that's the same density in galaxy. So the explosion throw rocks different masses with different quantities, so one of them are more close and one farther than. So this you have a temporal problem and a big problem, my friends. And so this kinetic energy will not produce you atoms, will not produce you from quantum bullshit atoms and things like this, and you are lying the planet stopping it to understand that the galaxy is only a big small sphere and we cannot see. You name the universe and the galaxy as stars. This is a small sphere surrounded by clouds, hydrogen, oxygen clouds. The galaxy are putting clouds, a bore of Gauss galaxy. There's an electromagnetic field there in clouds, like in lightning clouds. And our solar system in the middle. Copernicus put the sun in the middle. He said not the earth is the middle, the sun is in the middle. But he did not put the sun and the earth at the border of our spiral galaxy. This is sci-fi movies, my friends. This is our sci-fi movies. So goodbye, God bless. My coffee science, a big video, a big fourth video. I explained it to you, all the science and how the science is wrong. Goodbye, God bless. Help me, everybody must find this. If you are not that kid that watches Home Alone and maybe like I was, maybe you like and subscribe. You correlate this video with my prior video and you understand the entire physics. Goodbye. God bless.